So I was listening to an episode of Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott, and Nicole Sakash said that she wants to get the sightings and disclosure garbage out of the way so that we can get the answers. I'm assuming as to what the phenomenon is and so forth. To which Sean Cahill asked Nicole Sakash, where are you going to get those answers? So I'm going to give my opinion as to where we're going to get those answers. Where we have the best opportunity, because there's no guarantee, but where we have the best opportunity to get those answers is from the collective. So you're not going to get it exclusively from the government, and you're not going to get it exclusively from experiencers, nor scientists, nor engineers, nor people who do CE5, nor people who study abductions. You're not going to get the answers exclusively from any one of these components. It's going to take a collective. And the only way we're going to get a collective to take a stab at what UFOs are, where they come from, and why they're here is if we get confirmation. And I know that's not popular, but it's my opinion. We need confirmation. We need it to be seen as a fact, and it is not seen as a fact. We are nowhere near seeing this as a fact. I see it as a fact for the most part. I'm not 100%, but very high up. A lot of people see it as the fact. But do our world institutions see it as a fact? No, they don't. Not even close. They see it as misidentifications or weather phenomena or something that's really not that interesting. This begs the question, why are we still in the dark on what we're dealing with? If this phenomena has been here for thousands of years, even up till present day with all our technology, all our capabilities, and our increased understanding of our world and our universe, how is it that still we don't really have certainty of what UFOs are, where they come from, and what the agenda is of whatever intelligence or intelligences is behind them? Two immediate answers to this question comes to mind. The first potential is that maybe these intelligences just don't care enough to make it easy and verifiable for us to grasp where they come from, why they're here, what their agenda is, and so forth. Because obviously, if they are intelligent enough to do the things that they do right-angle turns with their vehicles, accomplish transmedium travel, that is, going from space to our atmosphere and then into our water, and then even going from our water to our atmosphere and then to space with the same vehicle without any alterations to that vehicle. And they're able to potentially commandeer people against their will. They're able to give people a sense of missing time, so there's a period for which they cannot recollect what happened to them. They're able to alter people's perception so that what they think they saw, they didn't really see. So they're able to do all these various things which represent command over physics, command over consciousness, and just incredible technological prowess. So it's pretty hard to make the argument that they're not capable of making it clear to humanity and verifiable where they originate. So if they don't care to do that, then we shouldn't assume that our own investigative efforts will fill in all the blanks, because maybe we need some sort of open communication that's verifiable and can be sort of cross-checked to get anywhere near having a clear answer to what is going on. The other consideration is that this phenomena simply does not want us to study it. Maybe they want to interact with us how they see fit, to the extent that they see fit. And maybe they even want to study us extensively, but they don't feel comfortable with reciprocation. And that sentiment is beautifully represented by what journalist Jazz Shaw has communicated to me on several occasions. I very much doubt that an intellectually inferior species can study an intellectually far superior species if the superior species chooses not to be studied. Johns Hopkins University astronomer Dr. Richard C. Henry in 1977. I'm not suggesting we require open communication to have reasonable confidence of where these intelligences originate from and why they're here and what their agenda is. But that would probably be the best ally we could have into solving this great mystery. But let's say, for the sake of discussion, that open communication will never manifest, ever, for humanity. But yet their presence is going to be sustained. They're going to continue zipping around our biosphere, traveling through our oceans, and doing whatever they do, which we really don't have any certainty of. In that scenario, could we as a species have any hope of determining these deep mysteries that pertain to these intelligences? And I think the answer is yes, but I think that what might be true is that it will take many more decades of our technology getting better for us to be able to do that. Or maybe the collective would surprise me. Maybe the collective is so powerful. In other words, billions of minds working on this problem is so powerful that even with our current technology, we would begin to be able to fill in the blanks. I really don't know. Now, at this point, someone may say, what are you talking about, sir? We know what this phenomena is. We know why they're here, and we know their culture. You know how we know? Because of experiencers. Because some of them have unsolicited or solicited contact, and the beings themselves communicate to the experiencers. And to that I would respond, number one, how do you know that what they communicate is representative of the truth of this phenomenon? Number two, what planet do they come from? What do they eat? What is their culture like? What is their agenda? And when I ask what their agenda is, I'm not just talking about what is often repeated, that they're concerned for the environment of this earth. I mean, what is their wide spectrum agenda? So even if you were to play the experience knows card, I would still come back at you with, that is so little information ultimately. It's not very much information. What star system? What, if they come from another dimension, what dimension? How long have they been here? What kind of technological advances do they have? Can you give me something detailed beyond flying saucers? Are they post-singularity, their civilization? Are they using artificial intelligence? There's so many questions. We don't even have the smallest piece of the puzzle. We barely know anything. We know more about our oceans than we do about this phenomena by a long margin. So slow your roll and let's try to look at this analytically, not emotionally. There's very little we know. Even if you were to pour over all the experiencer data, there is very little we know. And it cannot be said that we can confirm it for a variety of reasons. You want to trust a phenomena that is covert in nature and deceptive? And I stand by that. I know a lot of people are going to want to argue with me on that. I stand by that. Doesn't mean it's nefarious. For all we know, it may not even be intentional. I don't know. But in my opinion, there's no question it is deceptive in many respects. And by the way, when this phenomena enters military airspace and it's being witnessed by various militaries all over the world, do they get on the radio band and tell the militaries where they're from, what their agenda is, what dimension they come from? As far as I know, the answer to that is no. Period. At this point, someone may rebut and say, wait a minute. If you don't feel experiencer recollections are good enough to get a good handle on what we're dealing with regarding this phenomena, then why are you giving so much weight to open contact? And I'll answer that. Because open contact would be a scenario where we could all pore over collectively exactly what this phenomena or being or beings has communicated to us in an open fashion, where we all hear and perceive the same thing that is infinitely more reliable than thousands and thousands and thousands of experiencers who may have stories that contradict each other to some extent, maybe not. But at least if there was a unified message that we could collectively transcribe and know with certainty, this is what the phenomena states. This is what they say they are. This is where they say they come from. We can all look at that information in unison. And then we can get our greatest minds to pour over it and try to cross-check it. How would we cross-check it? Great question. I don't know. Because how do you trust an intelligence that may be far more advanced or presumably is thousands and thousands of years more advanced than us? Maybe when you get that advanced, truth is not as important. Have you seen the movie The Matrix? You remember when the Oracle met Neo? Actually, right before Neo meets the Oracle, he's with Morpheus in an elevator on his way to have a little chat with the Oracle. And during that time, he says to Morpheus, because they're in the midst of a conversation, and she knows what? Everything? Morpheus responds, she would say she knows enough. And she's never wrong? Morpheus responds, try not to think of it in terms of right or wrong. She is a guide, Neo. She can help you to find the path. To which Neo responds, she helped you? And Morpheus responds, yes. Neo responds, what did she tell you? That I would find the one. Now, after Neo met with the Oracle and had his conversation with her, Morpheus says to Neo, what was said was for you and you alone. Let's circle back and quickly review some of the conversation that Neo had with Morpheus just before he met the Oracle. So at one point, Neo says to Morpheus, and she's never wrong, to which Morpheus responds, try not to think of it in terms of right or wrong. She's a guide, Neo. She can help you to find the path. And so when I look back at the vast historical record of UFO intelligence, going back 70 years, going back well beyond 70 years, in which people have had contact, some of it solicited, some of it not, some of it pleasant, some of it very unpleasant. Do we really know what it means? Do we really know that it accurately portrays what's behind it? I would say no. And can we assume that these interactions are meant to give people accurate perspective and understanding of what the phenomena is, where it originates, what its agenda is? I would say not necessarily, because it's quite well within the realm of possibility that when intelligences get intelligent enough, they don't see things as black and white as we do. They don't see things as right or wrong as we do. Their biggest motivation could be influence. Influence above all else. And if all you cared about was influence, or finding the path, as it were, then you would implement whatever would fulfill that to the fullest extent, even if it meant giving the wrong impression. Beyond that, after Neo meets the Oracle, Morpheus says something to the effect of, whatever she's told you was for you and you alone. And so we can look at, in some respect, contact, solicited and unsolicited, going back hundreds of years, 70 years, however you want to look at it. And in some sense, maybe it was for those individuals uniquely. And in another sense, of course, we all learn about it from their testimony. So it can't necessarily just be relegated to them uniquely and for their own purpose. But maybe we're moving into another phase, another stage, for which the phenomenon begins to interact with humanity differently. And maybe as we progress, the phenomenon can be more accurate with us, can give us a more accurate rendition of where they come from, what their agenda is, and why they're here. Maybe they don't need to influence us as much because we've been influenced for a very long time. So as the phenomenon has influenced us for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, we've responded to that. And so we are at a higher plane than we were long ago. And so maybe the phenomenon can level with us more. I mean, this is all pure speculation, but let's go with it. James Fox has said, and he made it clear that it was speculation. James Fox is the director of the movie The Phenomenon. If you haven't seen it, you should go and see it. You can rent it on YouTube for a couple dollars. He said that he gets this feeling that the more our civilization opens up to the truth of the phenomenon, that it exists, that it's here, that it's real, that the phenomenon will open itself up and start giving more revelations to us, being less covert, being more open with us. We'll reciprocate that openness. And interestingly enough, Whitley Strieber has said before, and I don't necessarily remember all the specifics, but he said something to the effect that he came across a document underscoring that maybe high-level officials were concerned that if enough people on this planet begin to think about the phenomenon, which would be a byproduct of accepting that it's real, obviously, if we got confirmation, which is getting enough forensic proof that the phenomenon exists to which it can no longer be denied, then think of all the billions of minds that would be thinking about the existence of the phenomenon. And so, if I remember this correctly, according to Whitley Strieber, he came across a document in which it underscored that there were people in high levels of the government who were concerned that our opening up to this reality, thinking about it, that very behavioral change psychologically would lead to the phenomena itself interacting with humanity more boldly, more openly, less covertly. And as such, this could be partly why the cover-up has ensued, because there are people who don't want this to happen or are concerned about it. Now, again, this is heavy speculation. I want to make that very clear, but it's fun speculation. And of course, if there is any modicum of truth to this, all I can say is it's silly, because it's inevitable. It is absolutely inevitable that the human psyche is going to open up to the phenomenon more and more as each year passes. That is an inevitability. There is no intelligence service on the planet that could thwart that. Impossible. And the reason our psychology is going to open up to the phenomenon more and more with each passing month, each passing year, each passing decade is simply because our technology is going to improve. And as our technology improves, detection of the phenomenon improves, because in my opinion, the phenomenon does use technology, whatever it is, whether it's aliens from other planets, from other dimensions, whether it's spirits, whether it's ultra-terrestrials, that being maybe a subspecies of humanity that broke off from humanity thousands of years ago and lives in the ocean and conceals itself from our humanity. Whatever the case, it uses technology. And guess what? Radars can pick up technology. If things are zipping around our airspace or in our oceans, we have the technology, reconnaissance, sonar, all kinds of interesting technologies that can pick this up. So there's nothing that can thwart that. We have the private sector going into space. It's getting cheaper and cheaper to go into space. More and more people are going to be putting on spacesuits and going up into space. What will they see? Who knows? The point is, there's nothing to stop our species from opening up to this phenomenon. There is nothing. And nor do I believe it's the will of God for that to happen either. Because you know how I perceive the will of God? I look around. The will of God manifesting right before me. Earth, the will of God. Rainbows, the will of God. Wildebeests, the will of God. Mosquitoes, the will of God. The will of God manifests everywhere. We see it everywhere. And the phenomenon, part of this biosphere, whether it's visiting or whether it's somehow lives here or it's parallel to here or whatever the case may be, it doesn't make any difference. It's basically a resident here because it's here all the time. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. In my opinion, there are unknown vehicles, unaccounted for, not stemming from any military inventory in the world, and they're just swirling around our atmosphere, flowing through our seas, doing whatever it is they do. I wish I knew what they did. I don't know what they do, but they're here. It's the will of God. That's creation, baby. That's our creator. You don't like it? Well, I don't like mosquitoes. It is what it is. I don't believe it's Satan. I don't believe it's evil, any more than a lion chewing up a gazelle. It is what it is. This is the universe we live in. I didn't write the script. Ultimately, I predict the more we learn about our universe, the weirder it's going to get. And the weirder it's going to get only reveals that God's imagination is much more rich and has a much more wider tapestry than we ever imagined. If there is a God, I don't know. I'm assuming there is. I'll see you in the next episode.